onto other news. The big one this week, I would say probably the biggest news is the non-announcement or the non-contest of anybody in the Austrian competition court that Red Bull could acquire a controlling interest in the BOHA-hansgrohe parent company. Basically, a controlling interest in the BOHA-hansgrohe cycling team. They own it now or shortly in the future. Kind of like Bora, they did a press release saying it's happening, but there's no real like it's a 2-liner just about, and there's no real details on what it's going to look like yet, unless I'm mistaken.
I feel like the initial rumors of it came out on Twitter when I think Ike Spun on Twitter posted that they found on the internet the page on like the FCA, the Austrian Competition Authority, that the acquisition was like applied for. And then Bora responded to that with like, oh, we can't really say anything about it because it's still being handled by the authorities. And then when it did, they said, we've got the green light, but we'll talk more about it in the future. And those words were exactly the following: we'll present further details of our partnership in the course of the season. So it wouldn't shock me if it's like announced surrounding or just before the Tour de France or something, that area when the hype in the season is bigger than early part here. But it's also something that has gone into like steps here, because this doesn't come out of nowhere. Red Bull's been in the Bora environment for quite a bit, as in they sponsored the BOHA-hansgrohe junior program, junior scouting program. That program is called Red Bull Junior Brothers. And I think 2 of their riders went to the U23 team that they work with, which was Team Auto Eder Bayer, if they are still doing that. I'm not 100% certain, because they are also working with a few other teams now. But in addition to that, Red Bull's got many cyclists in this sport. Wout van Aert, Pidcock wearing Red Bull helmets, Zoe Bakstedt on the women's side, Anton Palzer, who is riding for Bora. Those are the 2 like previously. That's what happened. But now with that controlling interest, there's so many questions, because on one end, a lot of people were rumoring, and as a consequence, there were literally articles coming out based on just the thought of the fact that there's people riding around in Red Bull helmets, and then Red Bull being invested in BOHA-hansgrohe with 51% in the future with a stake in that. I don't think this will have any consequence towards Wout van Aert or Pidcock transferring over to BOHA-hansgrohe or something just because they wear a Bora helmet, a Red Bull helmet. I don't see that.
No. Although it does mean the team has more money.
Yeah.
So it's possible they can get riders of that caliber more realistically and often because they have more money, rather than, hey, you're now also owned by Red Bull. Let me just change teams mid-contract. Like Pidcock and Van Aert are under contract. So yeah, I feel like the Pidcock Red Bull collaboration is much more significant than the Van Aert one. Don't you reckon? Like Pidcock, is it because Pidcock does like the mountain bike stuff more, and Van Aert is really pretty much road focused now?
I think so, but I'm not sure if that's particularly a bigger agreement for that sense. That might just be because Pidcock does slightly crazier stuff, because we still remember that Wout van Aert went across the line with his wings flapping about in the yellow jersey in Calais 2 years ago. So that's still the case, but I agree. There's definitely more money. I think there's also other consequences to this, and we're going to know more of that in the future. But the merger is classified under economic sectors, other sports activities, and creation of advertising campaigns. And at the last spot, I'm like wondering, is that related to advertising on the BOHA-hansgrohe shirt as a consequence, or is that more related to the fact that they've got this whole media business, Red Bull? They've got an award-winning media house that creates content with their athletes, that creates content in general. I think there's some kind of Red Bull TV kind of thing. I just expect better team content, better sponsorship activations, better PR stuff. Like, if Red Bull was in the team when Roglic was announced, it would have been handled differently in my head.
Yeah, of course. Like, BOHA had the Netflix producers follow them around for season 1, and then they got cut out of the show because it's too boring. So like,
Jesus.
well, I mean, it was. It was. That's what happened. Or they couldn't find a storyline that was intriguing. Is another, if you want to put it that way. So obviously, Red Bull, they're here to make. They're a marketing company, so that's been said a million times. So I'm sure they will want to boost that part of the team, and they probably see a nice canvas to do so with a team that's progressed well. It's won a Grand Tour recently, and it's got good riders, and it's doing well at attracting good riders to come to that team, and it's got good equipment. So maybe they think, well, we can come in. Also, they're Austrian, and so they're all German speakers in management, presumably. So maybe they can come in and really boost that part of the team. They see an opportunity there. But otherwise, I don't know when it's. Do you reckon pre-tour they change team name and change it all? Change the jersey?
Change change team name is difficult, because what happens to the existing agreements?
Yeah, BOHA-hansgrohe got contracts.
Yeah, they've got contracts to be in the name sponsor, stuff like that. To add Red Bull to that kind of
didn't one just extend?
What, sorry?
One just extended too.
So yeah, that makes me wonder whether they already knew about that situation going on, or whether that will impact the value of their sponsorships in the future. It's so many questions behind the scenes, but that's something they can deal with. There were also there's also feedback on this, like people shout sports washing, but I'll be honest, yeah, of course there's some sports washing, but they're an unhealthy brand. Sports drink being sports washed in sports, that's how I perceive those comments, but they're so much worse in the sport than Red Bull joining, in my opinion. Like, if we're gonna, on the scale of sports washing and cycling, this is on the lowest end.
I'm not even sure that counts as, it's just like marketing a product.
It's like Burger King sponsoring on the butt of Aiolo.
That didn't last for that long, did it?
But it was funny.
It was funny. I mean, I noticed it. Yeah, listen, if Red Bull can't buy a team and sponsor a team, then
wait. Question. So, when Fortunato won, or when someone of Aiolo won a stage, Contador was celebrating, right? In this video after the stage?
Yeah.
I have rewritten that history in my head that he was eating a burger in that video. Is that wrong or right?
I think you're hallucinating.
See, the Burger King ad has done something to my head.
Well, what's YOLO? What does that company do?
I only know that they sponsored the Giro, and for the rest, I don't know. Electrical company?
What's Cometa do?
Absolutely no clue. What does Balti do?
Is that Hungarian food? Like
I don't
meat.
fucking know.
One of them's something to do with Hungary and meat. That's why they sound feta.
Come eat?
See, like, at least Red Bull, you know what it is. Decathlon, you know what it is. Lidl, you know what it is. What's Burger King? You know what it is. So I would say if you've got global ambitions, it makes more sense. Yeah, I'm keen to see what happens here. I think it's a good sign for the sport overall, because I honestly, and this is going to go into our next topic maybe, but I honestly hear all the time cycling's dying, cycling needs to change. And it is annoying as hell that I can't see half the races in February. And that needs to be fixed. But that is, I think, should be easily fixed with some people getting their heads together. But it's what World Tour team folded last year? It didn't.
Lots of them are on the.
Look at these Pro Conti teams coming with more money. Tudor, Q365.
I do feel like, and maybe that's just a part of the sport, that there's always someone on the brink. Teams are.
Yeah, because they pay riders too much.
Well, they also have to if the competition keeps spending more and more.
Yeah, I know, but if you compare what cyclists get paid, like the top 20 cyclists to the top 20 rugby players and the Rugby World Cup, I'm sorry, it was a bigger event than It's a big event and eclipse
Not
cycling.
bigger than the Tour de France.
I don't know about that.
Maybe it's a perspective from which country you're from, but from my Belgian perspective,
in France,
I've never even seen a rugby match in my life.
Yeah, but
it's probably not in the top 10 sports in Belgium.
People in Wyoming haven't seen a Tour de France in their life either.
Wow.
They certainly haven't seen a Dunelith Nikira Corsa. Yeah, but they probably also didn't watch the rugby. My point is, like, the top 20 cyclists get paid better than top 20 rugby players by a fair way. And so I'm like, well, if the salaries are pretty healthy and have grown a lot in the last 10 years, then is the sport really in such dire? Because I swear I see an article every week that like the sport is on the brink of collapse.
How important is the best rugby player on a team compared to the best cyclist?
Yeah, true.
Team?
It's like you can have the best like Brian Lara on the Windies team, or yeah, good luck with that reference. Or yeah, like the French scrum half. I don't know what he's on. Or the best New Zealand. I think best New Zealand player might be on 1 million, and they're 1 of 15, and they can't impact the game the same amount as a basketball player like LeBron or Curry in 1 in 5.
Pogacar.
Or basically 1 of 1 sometimes in cycling. So I take your point. But I'd like to still compare the 100th ranked rider on PCS to the 100th ranked rugby player. I think it'd be interesting if we knew the salaries of both. So I don't. Yeah, compared to, obviously if you compare it to football, they're not getting paid as well. I'm not saying they should be paid less either. It's not what I'm saying. Very dangerous sport. Riders can die or be permanently injured, and they train, I would say, harder than athletes in those sports that I've mentioned as well. But salaries have gone up. So, where's the money coming from if the sport is on the brink, as I said? Which segues us, Benji, into...
Wait. I think my final comment is that I do think an impact to that is that the teams that are not on the brink are the ones that are continuously causing the salary to go up, while the teams that are on the brink are continuously trying to have more money to try and still struggle because the bigger teams have made the average higher, if that makes sense. But that's just my last remark.
Right, so I take your point. So Ineos, Bora, UAE, Visma... I'll put Quickstep in there too. They basically pay 5 to 7 riders each, which is about 30 riders, and that just blows salaries out. And the other teams just cannot compete for those top 30 riders on salary, and there's just a completely different salary house between the teams. I can see that. If Intermarché had Vingegaard and he wins the Tour, they either somehow get it. To keep him, they either somehow get a new sponsor to pay his whole his salary to match whatever offers he would have gotten, or then he would just go as soon as the contract.
Afford Costa.
Yeah, well, let's not compare 38-year-old Costa to.
Yeah, but the fact that they couldn't financially keep him for the salary that he's probably worth, I don't know.
But then I also think if you're EF, why are you paying Rui Costa?
Yeah, I agree.
What is that doing for you?
Reminds me of the Iking transfer.
Worse. He's former world champion, Benji. If you're getting paid more than Christian
financially,
Iking.
I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, I agree. It's not so clear. There is an inequality amongst the rich teams, and if there was revenue sharing, which is... then that would filter down, and then they wouldn't be able to... but yeah, just my point. I was just a devil's advocate, pushing back that it's all doom and gloom all the time.